Welcome back to another episode of this Codersart. So in today's video we are going to learn about and we are going to do some practical hands-on on Python object and classes, or simply we can say under the Python OOPS concept, object-oriented programming. So in this programming or object-oriented programming, the first important point is how we can create classes. So classes and objects are important backbone, we can say a key concept of object-oriented programming. Okay, so in Python first we are going to learn how we can create classes. Okay, so I'm going to use any editor. Let me show you. So I'm using default Python editor. So if you have any other editor you can also use, or maybe default one, but I'm using default one. Okay, so oops in Python. Okay, so save this file. Oops. Okay, oops in Python. Let's save this one. Okay, so the syntax of Python classes, or how we can create classes, it's like that. Let me show you what are the syntax first. Okay, so first you have to create the class is the keyword, and then after my class it can say, let's so in the bracket it might be class name, then it should be colon, and then after you should pass like statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, statement, let's say like that, or let's say it's less 2 and 3 and let's say n. So inside this class we can write a number of statement. Okay, and a statement might be, and what could be a statement? A statement means line of code, so line of code can be variables and the functions. Okay, so might be this sentence, this line of sentence is might be represent functions, and some line of code inside this class might be represent as function. So all this statement might be statement. So let correct this one. Statement will be variables and the function. A statement we can say line of code. Okay, so this is our common syntax. Okay, so after this is a common syntax, let's try to create one classes. So I'm going to create one class called my class. Okay, and then after giving any name, let's say x value, or you can write any simple one, x value. I'm writing some 20. Okay, but I'm not going to do anything more. So just this class is with one statement. Okay, so this is basic definition, and this is the very simplest definition. Still there might be other modification and other complex classes itself, but just I'm going to explain line by line, like what are the simplest form of classes and smallest classes we can create. So smallest class, it could be this single statement inside these classes. Okay, and then let's going to create objects. Let's create objects, create a object. So how we can create objects in Python for Python classes? So you don't have to do anything, just give any name, any variables name like obj1, and then after call the class name. Make sure you are proper following the naming conventions. Okay, and the spelling should not be wrong. Okay, so this one. After creating the classes, if you want to access some value, so you can access value like obj1 with the help of dot, and then call the variable name. Okay, and if you want to show somewhere, so you have to use either printf or some functions. So let's do this. Okay, fine, let's run this code. where we are getting some error. obj1 my class, fine, print value x obj1. Yeah, that is correct. Why we are giving error? EOL while scanning literal. Okay, sorry. Why we are getting error? I by mistake this is, it should be closed 3 times, but I was trying to write 4 times. Okay, so this was not considering as a comment, so that's why we are getting error. Okay, so make sure your comment should be properly, like 3 time of if you are using for closing, so 3 time you have to use for opening and closing both. Okay, so you can see our output is this one. Okay, so there is the basic thing is like how we can create classes and how we can create objects and how to display this one and how we can access the value. Another point is here. Okay, so can we create some empty classes? Can we create? Okay, so empty classes, so how we can create? So let's create again and let's say empty classes, and we do not have to do anything. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so every time you will get this error, okay, if you are not defining something. So what is meaning of empty classes? So why need? Do you think empty classes needed? Yeah, it's somewhere it's needed because we think initially we think this type of class is required, but currently we are not sure at the certain position. We are not sure what should be inside this body. So that time we want to define some empty classes, and later we can define some functions or any functions or any variables we can create or attribute we can create. So sometimes this is also might be very helpful in abstract classes. Sometimes you are doing like that. Okay, so but here I'm going to discuss some extra thing. So there is one way of doing that. If you want to create empty classes, if you want to create empty functions, so all the things can be performed with the help of one keyword that is called pass. Pass means is just explicitly saying we do not want to define any body of this class. Okay, so that's why we are using at a pass. So now these classes will work. Okay, our code will run successfully, so there won't be any error, right? So with the help of pass we can create empty classes. Fine. This was the second one. We have already learned how to create classes, how to create objects, how we can create empty classes. Okay, so let's talk about the third one. Before going to deep dive, let me show you some inbuilt function that is going to be help for later part of the coding. So that is called init. So what we have to do, 2 times it should be underscore and then init, this one, and then after 2 times after the init and then this one. So this is called init functions. So what is the use of init function? Init functions is used to give extra capability to Python classes. Okay, so what is meaning of that? So let's try to understand what is importance of the init method. So init method is work as a constructor in other programming languages like in C++, Java, or maybe you can consider other programming language. So there might be constructor with the same class name, but in the Python there is a little bit difference. Like with the help of init method we can perform all the things that a constructor can do. Okay, so let me show you with one example. So let's say I'm going to create one class and class name called person. Okay, and then inside this person class let's going to, I think you already know how to define function. So init is a type of functions, and so we have to use this function, and this is inbuilt functions that is provided by Python. Okay, so we have to use that. Okay, and then you can create any type of instance variable. So instance variable, so it means only the object of that instances can access the value. Okay, so let's create something like that. Okay, and give any name. Let's say hello. And if you want to give other things, so with the help of self, maybe we can also, it's also, there is, I think I will discuss more about what is the meaning of, in Java there is public, protected, private, so something like that, but in Python there is difference thing. Okay, so if you have something created outside, without this init method, so that will consider as, in this case, that will consider as a static, similar like static, or we can say class variables. So this is class variables, and anything that is decided or that is defined within the init method, so that is instance variables. Okay, or instance member. So anything if you want to define like as an instance member, so we have to define inside this init method. So init method is all work as a constructor and initialization of the object. Okay, or initialization of the classes, you can simply can say. Okay, so I'm going to create one more. Let's create age and let's say 24, and then after, what we are going to do, I will explain more about, so just hold a second for some time. So I'm going to create, let's create person, or let's create p1, and p1 equal to how to create objects. Just you have to call the method, and then after, you can see now we didn't have created any display method or something like that, but it's directly we want to work like that. Okay, so let's print this one, what will be our output. Okay, so you can see init method take positional 0 positional argument, but 1 was given. So you can see you always give this type of error. Okay, so if I'm just mentioning this, so if you are getting this type of error, it means as you already are Java developer or something else, so you forget about, so this, instead of in other programming language, in Java, that is this means the object of this classes. Okay, or reference of these classes, but in case of Python, that is one method called self. Self means is denote the reference of the current classes, and without this you will get error. So whenever any function you are defining inside these classes, then self, this keyword you have to pass inside that function as the argument, else it will give error. Okay, so every time you have to pass the self. Now run this. Okay, so you can see there is no any error, just we have created the instances and instances is created. Okay, so let me show you. We try to access the value, we'll get or not. So like p1 dot, we are trying to access this name. Okay, so with the help of object p1 dot name, or let's also call p1 dot age. Okay, with the help of dot we can access the any member functions, any members. It might be member function, or it might be any instance variables. Okay, or any variables of the. Okay, so you can see hello and 24. So still you are thinking, why with the help of this object we are able to directly access the variables. Okay, it should not be like that, right? So because it's in this happen in case of Java. If you have so in Java, if we are directly able to access any member functions or member variables, or any members of the classes, so in that case that should be public, but here it's not concept of public, private, so anything decide in this classes. Okay, or with the help of init or with the help of self. Self means just denoting that it will be instance variables, okay, and that will denote, and everything will be treated as a public. There is no any concept of private public, but if you want to achieve that, then there are different things, okay. But I'm just currently explaining how the things are working, okay. So you can see here in this above examples also you can directly access with the help of object name, okay. Just give the object and then after with the help of dot just call the any variables. So you are also able to call directly class variables. Also you are able to call this instance variables, okay, instance variables. And how we can define instance variables? So with the help of init method we can define this one, okay. Again our idea is like if we want to pass some argument, okay, here I am just fixed value, okay, but I want to add some dynamic value, or maybe the value will be given by the user. So what we can say, we can create some argument. We don't have to create any data type, and then do like that, and then just replace this name and age, and now you have to pass some value, okay. Let's say Python, and let's say Python age is, let's say 24. So this is number, so without double quote, again our output will be the same, okay. So you can see Python and this one. So this one is we have talked about how we normally can create classes, okay. So classes with the help of init methods. So with the help of init method will help to create more obviously it's a type of constructor, so it help to initialize the classes with the different variables, okay. So you can ask why you need this one, okay, why you need this one. If you can create we can go with this way, okay, either we can create this way. But the idea here is, like suppose we are creating multiple classes, right? So multiple classes means, okay, so also the one point here, whenever when the class variable, so the value will be every time will be the same, okay. I think you didn't get it. Let me show you. Suppose I'm creating one more variable here, okay, persons, and let's say Java. You can write any name, okay, and let's give the name 30, okay. So you can see in both cases, okay. Also let me print this one. We are going to print only p1, sorry, p1 and p2. Let's print this one. Okay, so it's in the same line. Okay, so you can see the both objects are different, okay, and both objects are different, and current value is, so let's print this one. Still I haven't print this one. p2 dot name, p2 dot age. Okay, so fine. But if something this that does not belongs to any instances, so let's say suppose this is a we have defined person, and let's say person could be, so let's suppose currently we want to store the information of only male, okay, not any female, all right, something like that. So what we can store here, gender, okay, and gender is equal to, you can write like that, male, okay. So you can see for the persons we are creating only database for male, okay. So this data should be common for all the objects, okay. But this value like name or anything, or I think if you are getting confused, so I can replace this one, okay. I can replace the something like that. Let me give this name so that I think you won't be confusing. And let's write here some other's name. Okay, let's something like that, right? So in this case you get the idea. I'm just using the correct data. So this is a person name, this is a person name also. So in both cases we think we need some of the common data, right? So because either is P1 or P2, both are the male. Okay, so why we are creating multiple access, like it should not be more good practice, every time if you want to define the gender. Okay, so because this is common for everything, so it's not good practice. Okay, or maybe you have to pass every time, or maybe, yeah, also let me show you this way, or like gender, or if you want to do like that, male. Okay, so like suppose if you want to store some information, some common information for this any person or any object we are creating with the help of this class. So either you have to do this way, okay, or you have to pass this way. Okay, this way. But we already sure, or we already know that this data is every time should be common. Okay, so why we are giving extra memory spaces, and why we are taking extra memory spaces, and also why we are doing some extra effort. Okay, because this can be done by simple one step. Okay, just remove this one, because uh, that is a class that is common to all the classes. Okay, so in that case we can do like that, gender equal to male. Okay, so so only the difference is that, okay, so only one time memory is allocated. Okay, and every time when the new instances is created, this will refer to these variables. Okay, so you can say the class variables is shared by all the instances. Okay, all the instances can access this one and the same value. We do not have to explicitly assign somewhere, but in the case of name and age, this should be, for different person, name should be different, age should be different, this should be different. But as a gender, we are only storing the male, so gender will be fixed. Similarly, it could be for, suppose you are storing uh, informations for colleges or universities. So in that case, college name will be fixed. Okay, department could be fixed if you are specifically, maintaining database for computer science. So why every time we are going to store as a programming level, why we are going to store every time as a, that department information with the help of classes, like we can say computer science department, and mention there like college name will be common for all the person. Okay, all this candidate or a student, and also the department will be common for everything. So why we are creating this, why we are creating separate one, either with the help of initialization method. Okay, so that the use of this one. And and one more difference is, sometime if you are uh, mm, going for any interview, so this is the very common question always they will ask. Okay, so they will ask what is the class variables, okay, and what is the instance variable. So this is called class variable. Class variables, it means, or sometime if you are Python Java developer, sometimes it's seems as a static variable. Okay, but not everything available in Java will be considered. Okay, so but just for only one concept, just for analogy, I'm just explaining. Just consider it's as a static, how the static work. So this is called class variable or static variable, and these all are called instance variable. Okay, so and how we can access this one? So in both way, you can see we can directly access this one. Okay, either is class variables, or either is static or instance variable, we can directly access with the help of objects. Still there is might be concept of, I'm not going to depth about that one, we'll discuss later. Okay, first I'm going to show you how we can create classes, but also as a normal programming you do not need it. Okay, in advanced concept we go to as a develop projects, that will be helpful. I will discuss later how we can, if we have to achieve that private protected something like that, or access specifier, then we can discuss it later. Okay, but that is the different way. Fine.